Everyone say hi to the YouTube VOD watchers. Hi, YouTube. I've been talking for a while to the stream and chat, and I forgot to start the manual recording. But I started it now because we're going to actually hop in game, right? We have some fun graphical stuff to show off today. Really, it's just complex grass, which I think looks really nice. Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would, if you're interested, I mean, again, if you install it, Whiterun's still going to perform the same as in the latest version. But, and so will the other cities, generally speaking. But I check it out. If you're D. Yes, Androme, there are. That's one of the big kind of features I'd like to do. It's very difficult to do because, I mean, there's a few different approaches. Most of them have some form of kind of teleporting the player around, and that's what I would like to do. I'd like a defeat system, right? And I'd like the defeat system to be hooked into your, like, followers as a kind of a % chance to be saved, depending on the state of your followers. Yo, CP, thank you for 5 gifted subs. Gifted subs, that is. Thank you. Yeah, that's a huge plan of mine, actually. One of the big mechanics, I would say. Let's see here. Do I have... I'm going to turn off the Castlevania music, and then we're going to crank Skyrim. God, what a beautiful soundtrack. Also, just, I feel like the discs of... Here, let's turn that up. You guys hear the music? Yes, % chance for permadeath if you want it. Yo, thank you, Draft Comic. Oh, cool, Wolf. That's awesome. I would like to play Fallout 4 again at some point. The idea would be % chance for permadeath based on your follower states if you want something like that, and then also like kind of a logical series of defeat consequences. We'll see. There's some stuff that's like that that's been released in the past couple of years. It's promising. We'll have to see. Because it's dangerous as far as, you know, mechanics go. It's one of the tougher ones to implement for sure. Okay, so I was just messing with... We can go to Moorside Inn. I'll show you guys. So we're going to be looking at 2 main things today. Again, it's going to be a relatively quick stream because these days I find myself with comparatively less time than I used to have. Excuse me. But I always like to check in and say hello to everybody and hear your questions and show off the latest shit. Yes, it's difficult to seamlessly adopt into a large mod list, and it's tough in general. Because you're talking about mechanics that Skyrim was never intended to have, right? You're talking about, you know, instead of the character dying and them loading a new thingy, they get kind of whisked away, teleported somewhere. And it's just very, very different than anything it was ever intended to be. You know what I'm going to do? Hold on a second. Let me, I don't know if I can do this with my phone. Hopefully. I'm controlling my second monitor. If I... use pin, long press and move to drag. Okay, cool. There we go. Just bringing my chat up a little bit so I'm not staring at the ground on my new monitor. Perfect. Happy Friday. Yeah, so it's tough from the outset, and then when you add in the fact that we're working with like a huge mod list, it becomes even harder. Check this out, right? Okay, so first, kind of basic stuff. It's nothing super intense, but you can see down at the bottom that I cleaned up the health bars a little bit. It may be hard to tell without a point of reference, but I removed the little glare, which is something we used to do on Ultimate Skyrim that I liked very much. I edited the colors so that they're a little bit cleaner and a little bit less saturated. I think the effect is really nice. I've been messing with Sneak. What I'm planning to do is implement little indicators for when you are sneaking and when you are walking, because I find that I often am doing one or the other, and sneaking is a little bit easier because we've always had the indicator, but I often find myself walking and I forget that I'm walking, and so someone goes to attack me and I try to run away or maneuver, and you know, my character's walking, so I just end up getting killed. So I'm going to add an indicator for that with some custom icons I created. And then the other kind of, here, you can take a look at the crosshair, which is now entirely contextual, thanks to Doodle's contextual crosshair. I've kind of configured that a fair bit. So you can see it appears when you're looking at stuff, so you can still kind of grab things specifically. It does not appear for melee weapons, as you can see, because we don't really need it. And it does appear for, let's see, ranged weapons. So, here, let's do this so we don't disturb everyone, right? Yeah, that's a big quality of life change. I'm working very hard on that. I cannot tell you guys how insanely difficult it is to do HUD stuff in Skyrim. This is another reason why this week has been weird and kind of frustrating. I just, people have always said, like, yeah, the HUD is kind of a pain to work with in Skyrim because it's built in Flash 5, which is obviously completely depreciated. There are tools that we can use. There's, like, the whole SkyUI framework. The problem is, working with the Flash files in conjunction with, like, the Papyrus controls, most of it doesn't take place in Papyrus. Most of it takes place within the Flash files in a language that's called ActionScript. ActionScript is weird as shit, at least for me, and I think for most people who don't work with Flash, it is like this famously, esoteric area of modding to get into. All I've wanted to do was display certain, elements on the HUD based on like key presses or certain conditions, and those conditions have very easy hooks in Papyrus. But even doing that has been like such a pain in the ass. The way that I got around that for the controls display, right, this one, is that I just hooked into a matter of time, the widget mod, and just replaced one of the symbols that it uses with that one, and then set up the hotkey through there, so it's kind of a hacky workaround. I can't do that for all of these different symbols because there's only a couple different symbols within a matter of time, like I'm very quickly going to run out, and I wanted to figure out how to do it on my own. Anyway, long story short, it is not easy. It is very difficult, and what I'm likely going to do is utilize this framework called I Want Widgets, which some of you might have heard of. It exists because the author was like, it is stupid hard to do anything with the HUD in this game. Let's try and create a framework for people to be able to do stuff, and it's very cool. I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around it a little bit. I have some of my custom icons in here and I can't get them to show up, but I know that it's like here you can see if I sneak right now on control down firing for sneak. That's one of my debug codes that I didn't have time to remove and I'm still using. Oh, you can see here I replaced the sneak eye. I made it like a little, I'll show you how that works. I think it's kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, it's like this whole thing, and it looks like it's going to be much easier to work with. I got to figure out why my custom icons are not showing up, but I know that the icons show up when I use the ones it provides, so I'm almost guessing that my icons are showing up, but maybe it's somewhere like off screen or something. I'm not super sure, but I'll figure that out. In any case, let's go show off some of this stuff. Let's go to Redderan's Retreat. We'll do this, the HUD stuff. Oops. That's right, it only has one. And then we'll show off some of you, if you're patrons, or if you were in the screenshots channel, you might have seen the preview of the complex grass, which is really cool. I'm going to show that to you guys. You can see it a little bit here, where, again, without a point of reference, it might be a little bit difficult to tell, but the grass, I'm now utilizing a newer ENB, and I'm utilizing this feature called complex grass. And what complex grass does is it allows grass to utilize a lot of features of lighting that grass formerly could not use. Oh man, that would be amazing, Wolf. That's like less intrusive HUD. It was a fantastic framework for doing that in real time. I use SkyHUD now, which is a little bit more annoying in the sense that you have to quit out of the game, make an adjustment in an INI, jump into the game, and see if your stuff is where you want it to be. But they're both really good. Even that stuff is like so much easier to do than the actual like HUD. Anyway, so you can see from this grass, it'll have a lot more depth. You get stuff like actual like lighting and shadows on it. You can get lighting. I just said lighting. Lighting in the sense that I meant lighting like environmental lighting there. You can get light source lighting on it additionally. Like I can show you here. Let me just make a quick save. Even here, if you're kind of like, you know, an astute observer, you can see that the grass looks different. There's a lot more shadow depth. You're getting stuff like, you know, the post-processing effects are showing on them. You get this beautiful shit where it moves around, like, as you kind of, like, move through it, and that does not just apply to the player, but also to animals. So you can see animals kind of, like, moving through the brush, which is really cool. Hey, what's up, Plot? And then you have, you know, just, like, a bunch of cool little features like that. Let me go ahead and make it nighttime here. And then yeah, there's a saber cat. In fact, I know for a fact that there is a, what's it called? Yep, see, is that a saber cat over there? I believe so. There's a predator spawn, like, right around here. And the only reason I know that is because this is also where one of the, in fact, you know what? Here, let me do this. We're gonna BAT fast, just so I don't waste my own time. And yours. There should be a dead mammoth over here. Usually there is. Or am I in the right spot? Where's the giant? There's a giant spawn near this location. Maybe it's on this side? What's up, buddy? Get him. Wow, that wolf is... There he goes. He's dead. Dead standing up, huh? See you. Normally there's a giant spawn around here. Ugh, these glowing hives. I swear to God, we've tried so many things to stop them from glowing at night. It's probably because of it's exacerbated by the aurora. Glow-in-the-dark hives. It's because it doesn't interact with... Oh, maybe it's over here? Either way, somewhere around here. Yo, thank you for 3 months, Satura. There is a spawn. Oh, here's the giant, so maybe it's just been, like, hanging out. Usually there's a dead mammoth, because what they do... If you guys have ever wondered why you'll occasionally see mammoths, like, you know, 300 feet in the air, Skyrim really seems to like to do that, and for different reasons. The common one was always that the Havoc physics engine would place enemies up there. That was legitimate. That was definitely a cause, but it's not the only cause. One of the other things that the game likes to do is it spawns several different characters on the same spawn marker, right? That's how things are spawned in Skyrim, is there's essentially like a little parent marker there that the spawn is associated with. And in the case of this particular giant, this happens a lot with mammoths because they're spawned in the... Oh, looks like they didn't die this time, which is cool. Doesn't always happen, but it does happen with a frightening amount of consistency. So it's something that I'm surprised no one has ever fixed. Maybe because there's not like a tremendously easy fix. You might just have to go in and do it manually, which is something we can do. But basically, the way that it works is that it'll take these three right here, this little cute family, and it spawns all three of them in the exact same spot, right on top of each other. When that happens, the game doesn't know, the collision doesn't know what to do with itself, and what it does is, you'll see this is like a commonly utilized trick in a lot of speedruns and games. It's what you would call an up warp in some cases. There's a lot of things that can cause an up warp for a speedrun. It's not always collision, but in our case, it is collision, and what it's essentially doing is it's taking... Here, camera's over here. You got two mammoths spawned right on top of each other. The collision, the game doesn't know what to do because they both are trying to occupy the same space, and one of them just goes and flies up in the air. And then, of course, at that point, I'm not sure why it goes specifically to the height that it does. It could be something related to the limit distance on like a physics object. I don't know the answer to that, but whatever it is, it puts the creature way up high in the air, and then the poor creature just falls to the ground and dies because it still takes damage the same way anything does, and it's hilarious. So the solution, at least one of the solutions, would be to take that marker, split it up into 3 markers, and then take all of the things that are spawning on the one and give them each their own. There might be a better like programmatic solution than that someone, you know, one of the wizards could come up with beyond me, but that would work. I know that would work, and maybe one day we'll do that. Anyway, You should be able to see now, maybe some of you who are really, hopefully the stream is good enough quality, but some of you who are really frequent Wildlander players who have a pretty good sense of what the grass looks like, you should be able to see at this point that it's pretty different, even in the dark. Let's go ahead and help Iron Lantern. 8 EC. Someone asked me if I'm adding a fuel system back to this soon, and the answer is yes. So yeah, this is really cool. I can't tell you how big of a deal this is. For some of you, maybe it's not, but for me, it certainly is. So I've got my lantern equipped. You can see that all of the grass is lit up by the lantern. This is huge. This is something that, if you've not noticed that it doesn't happen yet, if I point it out to you, it's going to be very hard for you not to notice. This has plagued Skyrim mods since forever. It's because of the way that the engine handles grass. Grass is not technically an object in the same way that other objects are objects, and it has never been able to interact with like normal maps or like subsurface scattering, and all of the grass can do that now. And it's not just this grass, it's the grass everywhere in the game. So we're going to go to some other visually incredible places that I think really sell the effect. And you can see all the grass kind of like moves around. It doesn't really wolf. It varies from machine to machine. I'm streaming here, so I'm not quite sure how, accurate the difference will be. But for me, it's like, on average, yes, it does also work in first person. Tron Kitten, I'm sure, has seen this before, where it used to be that a lot of these lights, if you could get them to work, they wouldn't work in first person, but they do. And the only way to accomplish this before was to use ENB lights, which are particle lights. They're you can see them here. Let's go to here's complex grass, complex particle lights. So the big revolution of complex particle lights was that you had a light source that actually would show up on grass. It would show up on anything really because it's a particle light source, and that was the workaround for a long time to kind of get lighting to interact with some of this stuff properly. The problem with particle lights is that they can be very performance expensive. Some of you who have noticed that the candle lights in current Wildlander are intense, this is part of the reason why. The other part of the reason is that enable big range was left on by accident. I've since disabled that for the next version. That's going to be one of the other bug fixes. But so if you have a lot of particle lights in a spot, the performance can tank very quickly. So it's not a great solution. The other problem with particle lights is that they are not lights for the sake of the game engine. The game engine has its own lighting and detection system. This is how it determines the efficacy of like your sneaking, or it's part of it anyway. It's part of the sneak calculation. So the character has like a light source or a lighting amount rating at any given point, right? Like depending on what lights are on them. And the problem with ENB lights is that they look amazing, but the engine does not understand that they're supposed to be a light source. So you can have a scenario in which your character is like super lit up, like a torch. But if it's in an ENB light source for the purpose of like the game and like the NPCs detecting you, they'll have no idea. They'll think that you're in pitch black darkness if there's no other engine light there. Anyway, let's go ahead. Oh, well, before we do that, I always get so sidetracked. Let's take a look at some of this HUD stuff, okay? To 10, and then we'll save the best for last. So you see how like the blades of grass have like their own lighting and stuff like that, right? Like it's really just amazing. So I can show you the difference. Oh no. In performance. So for me, on average, the difference in FPS was 1 frame. It's gotten up to like 2 in some places. I've noticed. I've tried to test it pretty thoroughly. I can't guarantee that that's going to be the case for everyone. I don't really have the data to say how it's going to impact different hardware. So I'm very curious to see. And for that reason, excuse me, I was thinking about, I'm definitely going to add another shader preset. We're going to call it Ultra. Ultra is going to have, the grass collision. It's going to have ambient occlusion. It's going to have all the stuff on it. And then you will be able to scale down based on that, so that if you are not able to handle it, you should be able to get rid of it. Also, if you know what you're doing, you can just open up this menu. It's very easy to turn it off if you don't like it. So if I turn off complex grass, let's see how much of a frame bump we get. So it's kind of hard to tell. It's a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see that number. It's a little bit variable, but to me, it looks to be about half a frame to a frame. So I'll turn it back on. And yeah, I mean, you can see here that it's, at least to my view, it's indistinguishable. It's also kind of hard to tell because of, you know, the rain in here. Stop rain. But it's, at least in this particular spot, you can't even tell. I have gone to other spots with, you know, I mean, this is not a what's the word? This is a challenging area for performance and grass because there's, you know, I mean, most places are now, unless you're in the snow. We have a lot of grass. This is very dense grass. It goes very far. And you can see, at least, because I was worried about the performance. That's one of the reasons why I didn't dive into complex grass earlier. And yeah, I've been very pleasantly surprised with the performance impact or lack thereof. Yeah, Fall Creek looks amazing. Let's go ahead and check it out. It's not even my favorite, actually. My favorite, as longtime fans will know, is the Rift, and specifically the area where the pines start to blend into the Rift near around like Iverstead. That's where I took pictures of, and that's where I'm going to take us back to in a little bit. So here's good old Fall Creek, right in the center of Fall Creek with my draw calls. If you guys actually want to see some draw call demonstrations, I can show you that. Not limiter. I am looking. It's up here actually. Profiler. So this is really useful. This is the E&B draw call profiler. It's right here. Obviously, just tells you how many draw calls you got going at once, and you can see by the fact that my frame rate is what I mean. I'm streaming right now, right? So that's an impact, but really, it's not that much of one because I use the whatever it's called, streaming setup, where it's like through the Ethernet cable. I can't remember what it's called. You guys know better than I do. That's the good one. The real problem here is that we are pretty much on the threshold of no return here. This is about 11,500 draw calls. You can see the frame rate is already starting to kind of take a shit. If you go over 12,000, you're going to start seeing 12,000 in my testing and experience it's the point of no return. It's when shit just really starts to go haywire and you're going to start seeing exponential decreases in your frame rate. If you get, like here, if I turn this way, you can see now my draw calls are 6,500 because I'm assuming this big building has an occlusion box in it. We just gained approximately 25 frames. No, it is not hard, and this, I mean, for better or for worse, some people would see this as a pro or a con. It's, I guess, really just a con. This is not hardware dependent. You can have the best computer in the world, and unfortunately, because of just the way Skyrim is built, and because of the nature of draw calls, and because this is an old game, even though it's upgraded to, you know, 64-bit architecture, it's still an old game in many ways. It doesn't matter how good your hardware is. If you exceed, and this is one of the frustrating things. I mean, I guess it also kind of helps you be a resource cognizant developer, right? Like I try really hard to make sure performance is good for all of our users. So in a sense, it's helpful for that. No matter how good your hardware is, if you were exceeding that draw call limit, you were going to see frame drops like this. The hardware helps in the sense that, like, you know, like in my draw calls are 6,000 right now. I have really good hardware. I'm on the highest possible settings for our E&B and the core performance settings. Yo, thank you for the Prime sub, C-Bottoms. I'm in 1440p, so, you know, most people, you would need this kind of hardware in order to get this performance. So, you know, if you have weaker hardware and you try and run this and you're going to get 50 FPS at the best of times, and then you get the 12,000 draw call and it tanks you down to like 25, so that sucks. And your hardware helps that, but it's still like going to be a big problem, right? So yeah, let's go take a look at Fall Creek. Now you can see there's an area over here. I'll demonstrate the gnarlier bit of draw call, and this is why it's actually kind of nuts. the forested environments, I focused really heavily on this kind of things. I mean, the mod pack's called Wildlander, right? So you would think so. But also, just to me, being in the world and the wilds of Skyrim has always been kind of like the biggest draw, right? So, there's a pun in there about draw calls. I really wanted to make sure these kinds of areas perform well, and you can see that, you know, all of the kind of stuff that can tank performance from a graphics perspective, things like shadows and, you know, a lot of grass and things of that nature, of course are still going to scale depending on your hardware, but the draw calls in an area like this are not nearly as bad. So you can see it's, you know, 7,000 approximately right here. And you can start to see the grass and kind of how gnarly it looks. Yes, that is why, Wash. It's the secret. It's becoming less of a secret. I feel like more and more people know about it now. Yeah, so this, if you look at this grass, again, without a point of reference, it's hard to tell, perhaps, but if any of you guys know what this normally looks like, I think you'll agree that it looks pretty different. You've got, you know, lighting, subsurface scattering, you've got shadows on things that couldn't have shadows before. You've got just the various different kind of post-processing stuff interacting with these grasses in ways that they couldn't before. And here's, I'm going to show you a gnarly draw call part. We're going to look back towards Falkreath, specifically over here. What I would like to do, actually, and I should just do it anyway, is put like a big occlusion box underneath this hill. So you can see I'm looking back towards Falkreath. We're up to 10,000, and I'm at, you know, approximately 56 frames. If I make that worse, I think there's a spot over here that I think is like even worse. Let's see. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, here we go. Now we're down to 45. See? 14,000 draw calls. So I told you, right after that 12,000 count, it starts to get real bad. And then I'll go ahead and turn around. Now we're up to, what, 67? 70? And that, even that, there's a bandit camp over there that I'm sure is factoring in because of the draw distance. You'll notice if you, I recommend for most people to play on our high preset and not our ultra, which is what I'm on. That's what I do my testing on. Because a big factor in draw calls is just objects, right? So this is why for a game like Skyrim, one of the best things that you can do to improve performance is to lower your draw distance. And you can lower your draw distance for things like, you know, little minute objects, things that don't really matter that much. Skyrim SE also has a much better kind of like tessellated fade-in effect for objects that are coming into the render zone. So it's a lot less jarring. There's a lot less like pop-in, right? So I really do recommend that. Oh yeah, Kai. You know what's crazy is I remember being in, so when Skyrim came out, I was in undergraduate, or in getting my undergraduate degree. I was an undergraduate. And I remember the year previously, that was my sophomore year, I want to say, is when Skyrim came out. And I remember the year before when I was in the dorms as a freshman, a friend of mine on my floor was playing Minecraft, like one of the earliest builds of Minecraft. I remember seeing it being like, oh, that's interesting, that's wild.
Come along, no more stops.
And,
need to find our way to
you know,
safety.
it's weird to think back on. So yeah, you can see this like slight movement here that we didn't have before also happens in first person. It's subtle, you can mess with it. I have not messed with any of those settings. I'm pretty sure it's just a deform shader. It's a lot more noticeable, I'd say, when you're moving around like this. Just a little bit of reactivity that I think makes a big difference, and I'm sure that we can adjust it to make it more or less. I don't know how that will affect the performance, but we'll see. And yeah, I think it's really cool. It's one of the big complaints that, oh yeah, here you can, it looks fantastic. Let's see. Oh, that's a bear. You can really see all the lighting interacting there. In fact, you know what? He might run at me. Stop. If he does, here, let's get him to run at us, and then you can see the, do I have God mode on? I do. You can see the grass kind of moving around. Come on. Come on, baby. Here, he comes. Oh no, he's going after that deer that was foolish enough to get up in his face. Oh. Well, you can see the grass moving around near them, so I guess it demonstrates that. See that? Same bit. Anyway, we'll let him have his lunch. But yeah, so this is just nuts, if you ask me. Just watching the lighting, and then here we can actually no, I'm not going to turn off collision. I will toggle AI just so no one runs up on us while I'm doing this. No, whoops. Let's see what turning off complex grass does here. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard for me to even tell. It looks to be like about a frame on average. Yo, thank you for 15 months. Jesus. Also, what's up, old and annoyed? I see you there. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and they're oftentimes going the wrong direction. Yeah, I can't really tell a difference. So again, that's my hardware. I have a very good graphics card. It's a 3080. I don't know if that will be the same for everybody, but you know, it's and also, if you ask me, this is like when the lighting is like the least impressive because it's like, you know, it's noon, so the lighting's directly overhead. Let's try going like early morning. Oh shit, we're in shade. Okay, let's try 9. Here we go. Let's get some good weather. It's a reverse golden hour. It's like the morning's version of golden hour. This is kind of a difficult spot because the sun needs to be high up enough because of the surrounding mountains. But yeah, that's the idea. Let's go to my favorite spot to show this off. We'll go to Iverstead. Iverstead. Really, all of the cities need cleanup at this point. There's just that draw call, because when I first put them together, excuse me, I didn't know about draw call. This was like 2019, and I just didn't know about any of that stuff, right? So you got that is a problem. This area needs cleanup just because the foliage. This is, if you ever wonder why with certain grass mods you see areas that normally had no grass or any sort of coverage now suddenly have an abundance of coverage like this. It's because the way that grass works in the game, it's got its own like record type, and you can basically flag a grass type as, or sorry, a terrain texture as having grass or having no grass. And if you mark it as no grass, then no grass of any kind will be allowed to spawn on it. A lot of these mods, to make things more dense, will remove that flag, and it does accomplish that. However, it also has the byproduct of making there be grass in a ton of places where it's really not supposed to be. So you gotta go in and either change that flag back, or you gotta manually paint the landscape a different texture, which is what I do. Oh yes, absolutely, Ice Wolf. In fact, that's probably gonna be one of the things that is in the next patron poll, would be animations. I am not great at maintaining a lack of scope creep, but oh, what? That's crazy. Hydro Flask. I did not see that. Oh, hopefully you had a good time. I'm not great at preventing scope creep, right? But I'm getting better. So animations are one of those things that I've wanted to dive into forever, and I've just been like, you know, don't do it, don't do it. You got other stuff that you got to do. But it's one of the most requested features, so I am for sure going to take a look at that if that's what people vote for. And we're going to do it eventually, but that's the cool part. Alright, so this is like my favorite area for the foliage, because you get the blending. Oh, cool. That's rad. You get the blending of the different styles of foliage. You get the pines, and then you also start to get the aspens and the aspen leaves. So like this, for example, if you ask me, just looks stupid incredible. like the lighting and everything. It's just nuts. And you can really see the improvement of the complex grass. You can see the grass collision working. And it's just really fucking... And again, this is on... You know, I'm streaming right now. I'm in 1440p. I'm on the ultra preset for both the shaders and, you know, the core graphics. I'm getting... I look over this way. That looks like a little draw collie. Where are we at? 6,000. So this is probably the most intense area, like, graphics-wise, just pure GPU. But we're still floating at, you know... What, 64 frames a second? 63, 64? So it's pretty wild, if you ask me. And far less of an impact than I had guessed, so I'm pretty excited for that. Like, just look at that shit. Are you kidding me? Oh, and also, here's another thing. So, Lizzie and I have been working on improved camera. Because a lot of people have been reporting... We're just, like, suddenly getting an influx of issue reports with improved camera. That's what allows us to see this first-person view, right? And, you know, we've known forever that improved camera's old and, like, a little bit wonky. For a long time, it was the best that we had. And now there's, like, these improved camera, like, updated versions coming out, which is really cool, and I'm hoping those will alleviate some of the issues. But somebody said that... Here, let's turn off the HUD as well. Someone said that, I guess we've gotten several reports now that improved camera has actually been impacting their frame rate negatively. So if I turn that off, we're thinking about making it an option for the launcher, because we can do that now, thanks to the launcher devs. So people can turn it on and off, you know, as they like. Yeah, this is nuts, right? Yes, this is outside Iverstead. What's up, Chloe? Yeah, we're starting to get some shadows. Yeah, shadows, same thing. They're able to affect grass far more than they would have been able to before. And you just get this really nice effect. But yeah, so we might be able to further improve performance by tweaking improved camera or outright disabling it, offering people the opportunity to do that if they like. For me, it's really tough, right? Because I love having my first-person body, and in particular, I would say the two coolest bits are being able to ride your horse in first person and being able to be like a werewolf in first person. That is, it's great if you ask me, but, you know, performance is important. That's why we've tried so hard to make it solid. Oh, look at this. Now, really, you shouldn't... I mean, you can have stuff growing out of a rock like that, but really this should not be happening. And if you want to know why this is happening, I can show you. Put Vigilant armor on. Oh, yeah, the ambient sounds. That's another thing that, I mean, sound design, this is famously the case, and really you can make this case for a lot of different components of design. The classic adage for sound design is, if you're doing your job right, people won't even notice it's there. It just feels right. And again, you can apply that to a lot of different design components. Sound, perhaps, most of all. If it's right, sometimes they don't even notice unless they know what they're looking for. If it's wrong, they'll notice immediately. And the sound design, there's a few different sound mods that we have running, right? But a lot of the ambient sound is... You have it, the existing ambient sounds are affected by, you know... what's it called? Audio Overhaul Skyrim, primarily. Also a little bit Immersive Sounds Compendium. Immersive Sounds Compendium does add in some of its own brand new sounds in that kind of ambient area. What's primarily responsible for a lot of the ambient sounds is Sounds of Skyrim. And I feel like people don't really know that a lot of the time. And it's one of those things where there's a ton of stuff. We're talking different sounds for regions, different times of day, different environments. Like, it's really nuts how much attention to detail has gone into that mod. It's wonderful. The thing about Sounds of Skyrim is also that there's too much in some cases. There's a lot of sounds that it includes that, at least in my opinion, are like jarring. Either they don't belong, or their loops are too short, so they sound very obviously like a looped sound, or they're like way too loud, right? Oh yeah, the Ghost Kids. Ghost Kids was a fun one to track down, where you had like weird kid ambient sounds in the cities that would just kind of play way too often for how hyper specific the things they were saying were, right? Yes, the sounds of Skyrim in chatter is a perfect example. It's really, it's like, I mean, if there's old games that utilize the same sounds, so I have to imagine either Sounds of Skyrim is ripping those ones, or they're just like, you know, open source or whatever the equivalent is. And it's just so funny hearing those sounds, because you just know that no one's making these sounds, and it's just very immersion breaking for me. So I think Sounds of Skyrim also needs a lot of work to kind of get it in a spot where it hits the right notes, you might say. I guess that's a pun. So I worked really hard on that component. It's very possible that adding Skyrim Souls might Darth Chloe. At the very least, if you add it, I mean, honestly, if you want to try and see how it goes, I would say go for it. If you do it, oh, messes up alternate camera. Okay, well, it might mess up alternate camera for sure. If you do it, make sure, like, at least that you keep message boxes paused, or let them pause the game, because we rely on message boxes and like a very careful sequence of them to like run the initial operations. And also just some of the stuff that we do. It would take a lot more to get it working perfectly than it used to, but you can try. The sound of the Halloween event from the holidays is really odd. Interesting, Theon. I don't think I've ever heard it. Yes, the fox sounds I silenced because they were just too intense, and they also had this issue of playing only from the player character, right? Which was kind of annoying. Gotcha. Kilted Frog, thank you. What was the other? Oh yeah, I wanted to try the... Was it Vigilant? Let's see, player.add item. Vigilance Cuirass. I never know how to pronounce that. 1. How's the volume, by the way? Is it too low? Let me up it a little bit, just in case. Let's try. Oh no, I already equipped it. Oh yeah, look at that. How fun. Just what everyone wants in their armor mod, which is a shame because it's kind of cool looking. I mean, it's clearly just the steel plate with like a, you know, mage armor bottom. But, I mean, these things are problems, and they're going to become bigger problems as we add more and more armor mods, armor and weapon mods. So, it pays to have us sort it early versus late. Gotcha, Peon. Well, I can take care of that. Look at this. Ooh. Okay, yeah. Message boxes should need to pause. You can unpause them in Skyrim Souls. I do remember that. Does Requiem's Vigilant Armor still have the weight issues? That might be this. Okay, let's see. 8-1. Well, does it show the... Actually, here, I can just do this. Boop. Yes, this is a... I believe... Yeah, base defined in Requiem. Whoop. See ya. Get out of here, armor. Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, oh, I was going to show you this real fast. This is probably not interesting to anyone besides me, but I've spent a lot of time fixing things like this, so it's fun to show off. I'm going to go collision. So one of the other big kind of like mod revolutions, and this author, if y'all know him, I think him, they will say are responsible for a lot of insane wizardry. This is the illustrious Meh321. One of the big game changers was Meh's, I think it's him. I hope I'm correct. No Grass and Objects, I'm pretty sure is Meh. But if not, please correct me. In either case, that mod is insane. It's a game changer. It uses ray tracing to detect space underneath objects, and based on a number that you can define in the configuration, it will prevent grass from populating underneath those objects, right? So it does exactly what it says. Most of the time, it automatically prevents this sort of thing that you would see from grass clipping through objects, right? However, in some cases, you have, this might be, yeah, what's it called? This is not technically an object. Or maybe it is? It's kind of hard for me to tell. So then it wouldn't apply. I mean, it must not be, because usually, what I was going to show you guys is that, sometimes you'll get grass, like these things can be kind of problematic, because the height of the trees, for lack of a better term, whatever these plants are, is currently higher than that number. So sometimes it's still possible, like on the roads, you'll see this a lot, where, like Skyrim roads, at least the stone roads, like here, let's go down to Darkwater Crossing. Exterior 01. There's some roads near there. They could be saplings. I know there's a specific type of plant that they are. Oh, okay. That's right. AI processing is off. You guys all stand still like some weirdos. Okay, so bridge, obviously an object. Here we go. Some roads, stone roads. So these are an object, technically. I can show you that, because I'll disable. You can kind of see it if you look at like the edges here. So we can disable this. That's what the road looks like underneath. You can see it kind of dips down here. There are some areas of the game that have like pretty big dips underneath the road objects, because the developers were probably like, you know, who cares? Because like the object is above it. This can sometimes interface poorly with those grass issues I mentioned before, where in vanilla it's fine because they have a road object on top. It doesn't matter what the painted texture underneath is because it's flagged for no grass, right? A mod comes along, removes the no flag grass, so now grass is spawning underneath it. But hey, we even have a solution for that. We got no grass in objects, right? So the object is over the top of it, shouldn't draw grass underneath. However, whoever was doing the terrain, you know, didn't bother to bring it up to be relatively flush with the road object, and now we've got a problem where grasses are popping out of the bottom of the road inexplicably. This is the kind of stuff that can happen when you start just, you know, throwing in crazy mods and shit. It's actually very prominent in like Fall Creek or Solitude. I've tried to sweep up most of it, but I bet you can find one or two. Yeah, Darkwater Crossing is great. I believe that's, you know, I mean, I gotta say it. I mean, not like I would have any reason not to say it, because Jenna's the best, but Jenna, it's expanded towns and cities. I've always been a huge fan. I would go so far as to say that Jenna's versions of many of the villages are just like by far and large my favorites. The only stuff with, you know, ETAC that I am even somewhat variable on is, of course, like some of the voice acting for the characters, which is just tough to do. Actually, no, we'll leave it on. So I'm sympathetic there. It's tough because it's like, okay, what do? Do you add kind of generic NPCs with no unique components to them to your expanded version of the town? Oh yeah, see here, you can see one here. Go underneath. You can see it's just because that little bit of grass is there, and it's just far enough down. So usually what I do is I come through and I paint the landscape. And if we go up, this road was a big offender of this. Yeah, so it's tough. It's tough to figure out what to do about that kind of thing. Hello. Oh, we don't have any more road objects this way. Yeah, I really do like Darkwater Crossing. In general, one of the big things I gotta do at some point is go through and just really kind of like cull a lot of these objects for draw calls. We also have some like easy stuff, and I'm actually gonna quote-unquote fix in the upcoming patch, where on the whole I try to be really careful about, you know, the poly counts of objects and things like that I use. But there are a few objects that are relatively common that have kind of snuck their way in there through like high poly project, and that can be a problem. The issue is that there's no one singular fix to all this stuff. It's just like a bunch of, you know, little things that on their own are not a problem, but when you combine them, it starts to get really gnarly. What's up, Solitude? Hello. You guys look like you're gonna try and kill me. Maybe not.
What's a milk drinker
Oh.
like you doing out here? Go
You got no
home to
eyebrows.
your mother.
You shaved your eyebrows off, lady. Did you, though? Let's double check that. They froze off. Yes, of course. Alright, I'll print screen it. Just in case. Because sometimes that's on purpose. Other times that means that her eyebrows have, like, clipped through. In fact, you can kind of see that this one might be on purpose. You shouldn't talk to me
Why?
like that.
What are you gonna do? Cry?
Back off, lady.
I don't have to take that from you.
Thalmor, help. Look, they're going to. How about that? Oh, that's an enchanted dagger. Oh, she's got singular focus.
Your end draws near.
Oh, they're sort of helping. This one's helping at the very least. Ow. What happened to Thalmor supremacy? Finally, jeez. Talk about animation mods. One of the other ones that we really got to add is flinch. Everyone's so good at just taking a knife blade to the face and then not flinching at all. You can tell by the way she shaved it. Oh, look, we've got like a whole ass little fight. Get him. Oh yeah, we also hopefully oh ow. Damn, that one felt brutal. Some of you may have noticed the issue with the potions sound playing from the player. That is something that we probably are going to be able to fix when we get the newest version of NPCs use potions. However, we might have to wait until version 1.2.0. Oh, is that so, Lizzie? Why? I guess because spells don't cost anything in vanilla. He's just very fond of his dagger, you know what I mean? Yes, the script changes. So anything that is particularly gnarly. I mean, you can change scripts sometimes, sort of, but you have to be very careful with that kind of thing. You can if they've built in like an update mechanism, which most, you know, authors do and will, but you do have to be very careful. I'm still of the mind that like everything, or every time you change like you know, from one version to the next, you ought to make a new game. I know that patches technically are still save safe, and we do try and take a lot of precautions to make them save safe, but you know, if you want to be safest, that's like the way to do it. Alright, what was the other thing I was going to show off? It's 1:15, holy shit. Why am I naked? Oh yeah, I took off my armor. Oops. Hot tub stream. Whoa, okay, too fast. Alright, so I was going to go to... I like to go to Redoran's Retreat because there's still some ambient sounds. Some of you may know of the QA smoke cell, where clearly the testers for Bethesda were... It's depressing to me. This is where the testers... Let's go there in case some of you don't know what it is. So this is QA smoke. This refers to quality assurance, so testers, and smoke refers to smoke testing, which is a, you know, game development term, not just game development, but development, software development in general, term for basically running a holistic game-wide test on all the stuff that's supposed to function. So the QA smoke, you got, you know, all the different weapons and armor from, let's see, Dragonborn here. You've got the ability to spawn. I'm assuming this was added in Dragonborn, perhaps? Yes, it was. So you're testing all this Dragonborn stuff. You press these buttons, you can spawn creatures in that cage. You've got, you know, a training dummy here. You've got all the crafting objects. So this is the... I call it the prison, where the QA testers were basically just kind of... maybe not forced in the sense that, you know, it is a voluntary job, but QA oftentimes does not get paid a whole lot, and people are trying to break in the industry, and that's why they get QA positions. And if you listen, in fact, let's kill this Netch. I really do like the Netches. They're such a cool model. Sorry, bud. So Netch is dead. Now, I would like you to listen to the... Oh, yeah, you know, interior, we can max out the frame rate, because there's not shit going on in here. So I'd like you all to listen to the wonderful ambience of the QA smoke cell. It's completely silent. Depressingly so. And I just imagine these testers sitting here, you know, testing each of these items one by one. Here. You know, making sure they work properly in this like deafening silence. Hopefully they can play like their own music. The reason it's this quiet is because, you know, some of these components that they're testing have like sound effects and stuff that they need to verify work properly. So I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they aren't able to listen to their own music while they do this stuff. So yeah, QA tester sweatshop. And like, you guys might know this already, but like for a lot of major, I don't know if Bethesda does this, but I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of huge studios will outsource their QA to like QA companies who, you know, get contracts with the studios themselves. And not always, but a lot of the time, like those QA companies don't treat their employees, their testers, like nearly as well as you would get if you worked at like the mainline studio. They don't, like, you don't get the same benefits. You don't even get to go to the same, like, you know, parties and stuff, or like, you know, get the same little perks that the developers might get. It's really fucked, to be honest with you. It's not great. And it's getting better in some places. In other places, no. Oh, man. Liam, I did not know that you did QA. That's crazy. But yeah, it's not great. And it's really a bummer. And I hope that it continues to improve across the board. Because, like, you know, it's like the QA, it's like, what are you not gonna, like, they're an essential part of like the development process. They're working on so much of the same stuff. You know, it's like maybe sometimes they're not developing, oftentimes not developing the same features, but they're like working hand in hand with these developers to make sure these features like work properly. Oftentimes people who are QA start there because they want to be devs and because they can develop in a lot of ways. So it's just kind of gnarly, you know? Anyway, rant about the gaming industry over. Let's go. A reason I brought you here was to demonstrate why I go to other places in the game to do most of my testing. Oops. It's because it's not quite so soul-crushing. There's sounds and, you know, music and other things. Yeah, of course, Kolali. Ah, gotcha. Whoa, that's interesting. Kanor Zero. I feel like a lot of construction sites, it's like a strict OSHA requirement that you're not allowed to listen to anything while you're there, because they view it as a health hazard. Anyway, maybe it's not these job sites, or maybe it's just one of those job sites that just don't give a shit. It's like, yeah, you know, go nuts, do whatever. Anyway, the other thing that I really wanted to show you guys, I'm gonna have to go before too long. I hope this has been an enjoyable stream. I've been kind of just like motor mouthing it, but this was the stuff that I wanted to show you guys. So the HUD, right? The HUD, I have a personal kind of like soft spot for. I've always been a huge fan of like good-looking HUDs, and I've really tried to like do that, you know, for Wildlander. I also really like the concept of not having a HUD at all for when you want it. That's why, you know, one of the most easily accessible keys is to turn off the HUD entirely. But the changes that I've been kind of getting at are the crosshair. Here, let me get not Grund. 6E9C2. So we're gonna get a grindstone. I'm gonna show you guys how the durability now shows up. Say, actually here. Let's get. We're gonna get ebony swords. Wep. 139V1. We're gonna get 2 of these. And then we are going to BAT smithing perks. We're going to player that advanced skill smithing by like, you know, bajillion. And then we're going to level up a bunch of times because it's going to make us. Come on. I would have assumed that in Germany you would be really all about the guidelines, Zero. Maybe that's an incorrect assumption. I've been in Germany before. I don't. Who can say? I used to speak a little bit of German, barely. Good way to gauge magic levels with the HUD hidden. At least with health and stamina, you have the heartbeat sound and the breathing sound. It's true, Tron. I saw someone try to do a bit about that, right? Although I would say that by the time your health is beating, or by the time you hear your breath, then you're in trouble. Someone tried to do that with Magicka by draining the color out of the screen using an image space modifier, which is cool. It's just, I don't want to have to look at the world in black and white. Ah, gotcha. Oh, that's weird, Wolf. Yeah, I should have everything enabled. Oh yeah, to look up today with a new sense of purpose. Anyway, so first things first, let's take a look at the new durability HUD. So many of you noticed that the Sky UI equip groups were breaking. Oh, I need ebony ingots, of course. And the reason for that, it's very annoying because I quite like the Sky UI equip groups more than anything else that kind of attempts to solve the same problem. Actually, I don't need to equip it. I didn't get them again. I'm not paying attention. Hold on. Add item. 5AD, 9D, 5. Why not? The equip groups that I'm talking about are these, right? That's why I wanted to open it. I wanted to favorite these. We'll just favorite all this stuff. So normally you can, you know, I can, what is it? F group. I'm going to select the group, confirm. And in this group, I'm going to say left and right and save equip state. So now it knows that whenever I hit F1, I should go straight to that. Here, we can put the bow on. Hit F1, and then ipso facto, it knows where to put both of my swords, right? So it's really useful. Problem with that is that it breaks because Sky UI is, well, the reason it's not really Sky UI's fault. We use, you know, item durability currently to manage our equipment durability. The whole thing about degradation of equipment tiers is that the items go from, what is it? You know, it's like ebony sword, and I start swinging, and then it goes down to like blemished, right? It changes the name. That's the most important thing here. Sky UI was not built for items that are able to dynamically change their names. Because the items are able to do that, they break Sky UI equip groups, and they break them like permanently. It's really fucked. If you were, you know, you have like a weapon in here and you assign it to an equip group and then it changes the name, you'll notice that when you try to re-equip it, it doesn't work. And I don't know if there's a way to ever get it to work again, unless maybe you were able to like get the thing to the same name, but I think even then it's just broken. And clearly that's not like an acceptable acceptance criteria. So my solution for that, because no one thus far has been able to fix Sky UI to be able to work with that, that would be ideal, but I'm not holding my breath. So, I came up with this little alternative solution, which is, I think it's kind of snazzy looking. I'll show you. So we got a, oh, you know what? I need to get some additional perks here. We got smithing, and then I want legendary as well. This whole tree is going to get a massive overhaul with my weapons and armor system update. That's not going to be for a little bit. Anyway. So, we're going to be able to temper these to, I think, high grade. Can't really tell, but it's 113. Doesn't really matter. So, it doesn't change the name anymore, which is kind of not great from a feedback. You can tell it's like higher. You'll be able to go in the inventory and see it there if you look at the base damage versus the current damage, which again is not ideal. One of the other things I'm trying to figure out how to do is maybe put the temper rating or the health as like a column here, but it's, again, as with all HUD things, it's very fucking annoying. But at least in the interim, it's kind of in here. Game hour to 0, so you can see the HUD elements better. So you can see my temper rating down in the weapon HUD. I've got, you know, tier 2 shit. And as that goes down, so will the temper indicators. So I think that's pretty snazzy. And that solves the problem of the equip groups. One kind of issue is that it obviously doesn't do the same thing for armor. Sorry, you can still use the whole base damage or base armor rating versus regular armor rating to compare to see what needs repairing and, you know, what can be improved. It's not the best, but we don't have a widget for that yet, and I'm kind of looking into some options, but we'll see. That's part of why I'm doing this, you know, crazy widget shit. So we have that, and then let's also take a look at the crosshair, right? So, actually here, we'll start here. Notice that melee weapon, no crosshair. Oh look, see my elven light bow? That's because of improved camera. See, that's what that is, if you can't tell, that little shape that keeps going here. Like right there on the right hand swing, that's because my bow is crossing in front of my face, so lots of little things to fix there. Enchant should be okay. I believe that SkyUI knows how to handle those. Okay, so there we got, here's melee. Ignoring that little bit, my little bow, you can see that the crosshair does not appear. If we pull out a bow, it does not appear yet, but it will appear when we draw an arrow, right? It also, this is contextual crosshair. It recognizes, by the way, that it should not appear when using our 3D drawn world space crosshair from SmoothCam, so that's cool. And magic here is just, it just shows the crosshair by default, which I think it should. Oh, fire sparks, like so. So whatever spell you're using, it will show the crosshair, which I think is pretty rad. So you have that, and then also the other major thing is the sneak indicator. I have adjusted. I think it looks pretty cool. Now, what I would like to do, and I haven't done this yet, that's kind of what I'm working on, what I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, is you can see right now that there is no sneak indicator, like at all, when you're not detected. And I did that for like immersion's sake, but I also need the player to be able to tell when they're sneaking. So that's why I'm going to add this indicator that shows up, right, when you are sneaking, that you'll just see it at all points. And I'll show you kind of, maybe I can figure out what it looks like to, actually, you know what would be a good place to demonstrate this is Ender Shard. Because we can just kind of sneak down and bother those assholes. Let's go down here. I'm going to go VOD slow. I'm going to make a quick save here. So we're sneaking, right? I'll show you what happens when they start to detect me. So you can see it right in the center there. Basically what you will get is a circle that is right in the center of your screen, and it expands as they detect you, and then that's fully detected. So it's, in my opinion, I might lower the opacity a little bit, but in my opinion, it's a lot more, what's it called, streamlined, while also still retaining the functionality of keeping it in the center of the screen, right? The key here is that you want, it's the same reason why I put so many of the core HUD towards the center bottom. Sneaking is something where you need to know you need immediate feedback on whether or not people are starting to see you, because you need to be able to make split-second decisions on like whether to proceed or whether to fall back, and etc. With that in mind, I want that indicator close to where the player is already looking. This is a design principle known as eye travel. You will also see this, you'll see this in a lot of shooters. You see this as well in, you know, a lot of filmmaking. A lot of, you know, directors and directors of photography are very concerned with the concept of eye travel. I am as well. So I designed it this way. Now, one issue that I'm kind of trying to figure out how to solve, and I've been talking to the creator of contextual crosshair on maybe what the best solution for this is that in first person, the sneak indicator is right in the center, so it's, you know, right smack dab where you'd want it to be. Let's turn this off. For third person, because SmoothCam has its own kind of separate sneak crosshair, right? What I've done is I put it down a little, kind of where it is right now. If you guys are Wildlander players, you'll know it's kind of like still in the center, but like a little bit down off to the side, or down beneath the center of the screen. Let's see if one of these guys says hello to me. Come on. Hey, assholes. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, shit. Well, he saw me. My sneaking's very bad on this character. Maybe I should up my skill a little bit so I can demonstrate this point. Let's see. No. Player.advanced skills. Sneak. Say 10,000? I actually don't know what that'll... 66. Wow. Whoops. Okay. So that should help. I want to get a slower kind of a sneak situation. Come on. Hey, here we go. So you can see in third person, it's down towards the bottom. It's a little bit too small even, maybe a little bit too subtle. But this is because it does not go away. Oh shit, whoops. I thought I was drawing an arrow. Alright, fuck it. We're gonna kill these guys and then use their friends because I don't want to have to do. I forgot to save after I did that stuff. No, don't kill me. Nope. There we go. Okay, now these guys are gonna, their friends are gonna come. We're gonna switch to our wooden light bow. We're gonna put this out and I'm gonna save. So you can see here that it's just like a little bit down below. You'll still be able to see it, but because it doesn't disappear when you draw an arrow, it needs to be out of the center of the screen, otherwise it's kind of weird. But yeah, the basic idea is that, you know, it's kind of like immersive and still close to where you need it to be, which is where you're looking. And there's another little fun bit here. Notice that... Oh, wait, shit, I gotta go trigger this thing, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry, Liam. I promise it's more visible in the, like, where I'm looking, and it will also, I mean, this is, like, very early days. I'm gonna make sure it's nice and visible, so that, you know, if you can't, you need to be able to see it, first and foremost. But you can see here, right, like, I'm gonna let these guys come sneak up on me. So, you know, boom. There's a fun little effect where, in fact, actually, you guys leave me alone. Don't hit me. It's gonna break my bow. So when you start to draw your arrow, you'll see that the crosshair appears in the center, which I thought was like a nice, fun little bit. Yep. I thought this indicator was really nice. It's just kind of sleek and fits with the rest of the kind of sleek bit that I'm going for. And what else? Oh yeah, the bottom right, the Frostfall HUD, I'm probably going to do away with. I'm either going to create like an I need style or the Sunhelm widget style kind of widget for it, which I think is what it really should have been to begin with. Or I'm just going to, I already turned back on the report players kind of like status with weather sense, and I'm probably going to give the weather sense ability back to the players so that you can just check if you really want, because of course we still have the notifications telling you your change in states, right? So like as you become wet, you'll be like, I'm a little bit wet, or like I'm damp, or like whatever it says. So those are still there. You will just be able to use this power to check specifically, you know, what the temperature and the whatever. And of course, you still have those state changes as well for your exposure. The thing about this Frostfall HUD in the bottom right, to me, is that I think it's way more confusing than it is helpful. I think it's fine when you know how it works and what each part of it indicates, and it was a fun little thing to design visually, but I think the core component of a good HUD element is that you can tell what it is at a glance, right? Like you should be, like everything on the screen right now, you can see exactly what it is just from looking at it, even if you're a brand new player. Oh, is that so, Liam? Asking about the Frostfall HUD? I would not be surprised. I've seen people ask about it, and someone on the subreddit mentioned it to me the other day, and it's true. It's just you see it, and you're just like, you know, it's weird. You don't know what it is. And that is something that I would like to kind of adjust. And then, you know, the less stuff we have, the cleaner it is, etc., etc. So that's kind of my plan. And yeah, there's a couple other little HUD tweaks I'm going to be doing. But oops, I forgot I'm no collision. And yeah, this is kind of what I'd been taking a break with after solving that really annoying code problem, and because a lot of the stuff that I have left for the patch is like, you know, simple, knock on wood, easy. I try to start with the hard stuff first, get the stuff that's going to take the most time. And yeah, y'all, that's pretty much all I got for you today. Well, I'm probably going to sign off in a few minutes here. I went a little bit longer, actually, than I intended, but streams are fun, and it's fun to talk to you guys, and frankly, just fun to show off what I've been working on and get your feedback and blah, blah, blah. Because it really does help. I mean, if anything should be clear by this point, it's that we definitely do listen to the feedback, and like so many changes and features are the direct result. Not even just, you know, like the patron polls or anything like that. Like, just little bits that you guys share. We need playtesting data in order to make that make those sorts of decisions, and it's really helpful. And a lot of these changes are kind of direct responses to that. Fuck off. No. No. I'm gonna kill these guys because it's fun. Oh, how did I miss? Ow. Well, joke's on you because I got an ebony sword. We're going to use the left-handed attacks. Also, I'm in God mode, so this is inherently not fair, is it? Gotcha, brother. Just before you go, what was the candle setting? Ah, that is, here, I'll show you exactly where it is. Yeah, hit me with any questions you guys got right now. Hit me, because I will answer them before I go. Say, actually, I don't need to do that anymore. I'm so used to pulling up the console whenever I edit the E and B menu to stop the cursor, but it actually does not affect in-game anymore because of a mod actually by the same author as Contextual Crosshair. Excuse me. The setting is down here in, so you'll see that this setting will be on complex firelights. You want to leave that where it is, but if you go down to, or sorry, complex particle lights. Complex particle lights, you open that up. This is the setting that will be enabled on your build, and you want to disable this, enable big range, and you will see a massive increase in the in your frames when you are near particle lights. No sweat. Yes, tons of plans for new alternate starts. So new alternate starts is a huge thing, but it's part of what I'm calling like a greater like start overhaul. So in addition to there were so many more alternate starts that I had planned for the initial release of Wildlander. I had to scale. Some of them are even kind of done. They didn't work with that version of Skyrim Unbound because of a bug. That bug has since been fixed. So I even have like several of them in there now that are just unusable. There's like you can start in jail, you can arrive on a boat. There's like a couple other ones in there. So those ones I'll be able to just unlock essentially once we update, and that'll be more starts. But I would like to do even more than that. And in addition to that, I would like to expand the character creation with dealing with backstories, and either that or do something similar where you get to kind of like, you know, decide what your character experienced growing up or like through their lives. You get to decide how old they are, so that determines, it's almost like a self-selecting difficulty setting where it's like, oh, am I, you know, super young and just like a scrub and kind of how you are now in Wildlander, or am I a little bit more experienced and I actually have more skills and sometimes more, you know, traumas or whatever and stuff like that. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in that mod. I strongly encourage you to check it out if you're interested. It's called Dealing with Backstories. But yeah, so you get to kind of further differentiate your character beyond just the stuff that, you know, we can do currently, which I think is really cool. How do you grow your beard so lusciously? That is, you were kind of to say that, Liam. It takes a long time for me to grow in a beard. That's what I do, is I wait. And let's see here. Any general idea on what the patch start overhaul? Not at the moment, Wash. Again, I have to be very careful with release dates because I'm really trying to supplement my income. I was actually very pleasantly surprised. I was hoping that the patron poll would encourage some new patrons, and it definitely did. That was really rad. I really appreciate that. I'm also trying to do a lot more freelance lately to just up my income a little bit, so I have to be very careful with my time. I'm not gonna, put down any release dates. Soon, TM, as we say. Any chance we might get more tattoos? We could. There should be a lot more in there, or at least maybe just retextures of the ones we have in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm always down. That kind of stuff's easy. Let's see. Is that going to be a patch in itself? Oh, what I'm gonna see about is how this content update goes, because I'm really trying to focus on bug fixes for the patch and then make the content update all about the content, so I can focus exclusively on the jobs and then the religion update. I want to see how doable that actually ends up being, because I'm a little worried that it's going to be kind of a large task having both of those in the same content update. So there's certain things that I really just know that I need to get into the game like immediately, that they're not even up to a poll, they just need to go in there. The jobs are a good example of that. Something like the alternate starts would probably be more of a poll. So I'm trying to determine, to be honest with you, there's not a lot of things left that I would consider like, I need to have this in there no matter what, and then we can take a poll for some of the stuff that I know it needs to be in there, but I don't really care what order it comes in. So once we get, it's the job stuff, and then it's the build anywhere mechanics, and then frankly it'd probably be the alternate start mechanics on top of that. So consider it very high priority as far as these things go, to the point where I might not even do a poll for that. I might just put it in there once I am able to. That would be my plan. Yo, thank you for 12 months, Prince Wolfchild. I'm sorry you got here just as we're ending, but I do appreciate it. So yeah, the start is very, very high, because I love, that I love stuff like that. I'm all about the role playing. That's why the jobs are important. The placing shit anywhere is also kind of role playing, because it gives you more options to kind of do what you want to do. Player house updates would be fantastic. I mean, there's so many player houses. The thing about player houses is that you got to be careful, because they're oftentimes either not balanced at all or balanced in a way that we still need to kind of look at. But I do love, player houses have a soft spot in my heart. They've long been my favorite kind of mod in a way. When I first started modding, when I was a wee lad of 13, the first thing that I was doing was editing some of my player houses on like Morrowind and Oblivion. Oh yeah, Last Seed is in there as well. Last Seed, that's a tricky one, because the main thing that we've been looking at, I've been discussing this with the team, the main thing that we need from a needs mod that we don't currently have is food spoilage. What we need for a food spoilage mechanic is that it works on food that is not just in the player's inventory, which is how a lot of these food spoilage mod works. Unfortunately, that is also how it works for Last Seed, we've now discovered. So there's a lot of what Last Seed is doing that I think is really rad, and I'm wondering if I can't get the spoilage to work, with containers as well. There are a couple older needs mods that attempt to do this, and I would need to test them and see kind of where they're at. It's very difficult because, I don't know if you guys know this, but spoilage mechanics in Skyrim have long been one of the most difficult things to do. The reason for that is because Skyrim and Papyrus make it very difficult to track like the state of an individual instance of an item, really just in general, but especially as you're transferring that item between containers. And so many of the food spoilage mods function kind of out of necessity. Even trying to do it within the player's inventory is already extremely complex, but trying to track food spoilage for items within containers is like doubly difficult. It also, in my opinion, happens to be the most important component of a food spoilage mod, because what really is the point of food spoilage if I can just stash all my stuff in my house and it's just pristine forever, right? that to me defeats the purpose, because it defeats the impetus to continue gathering, finding additional food. You know, of course, you consuming it also requires you to do that a little bit, but you know, it's not ideal. Maybe it's not quite as intense as I'm making it out to be, but I think that is a very important component. Certainly something we're going to be looking at to see if we can make it happen. And what was the thing I was going to say about this? I think that's it. There was something else I had. Yeah, food spoilage is tough, and I don't envy the authors who have tried to, you know, take it on, but it really is like, I don't know, I think it's like a core component of survival stuff. And part of progression as well. What mod am I using for the religion overhaul? That is a good question, Giraffe. I still have not decided completely. Very likely Winter Sun will make it in there in some way, shape, or form. At least like the worshipping mechanics. What the effects will be and exactly, you know, which mods will have their version of each deity kind of in there, I'm not sure of yet. It's really a toss-up. I'm really not sure yet. I've been focusing on the patch primarily before really digging in. We do have a lot of older notes. I have a lot of older notes from when the last time, I think I mentioned this in the last stream, but I almost put religion stuff in the initial release of Wildlander, and, you know, cooler heads prevailed, and I, you know, tried. I was like, okay, that's too much. I gotta release this thing. But yes, see, like Immersive Divine Blessings is obviously very specifically tuned for Requiem. You have, there's another one, like Divines and Daedra, which I think is also for Requiem. Winter Sun and, you know, Pilgrim have this, these massive varieties of like these very, yeah, just a variety of pantheons and individual gods, which I think is really cool, because that's great for role-playing, and also mechanically, for mechanical variety. And then, of course, Winter Sun has its worship mechanics that I think just... I've never been a huge fan of religion as implemented as a, you know, almost like a... how do I put it? Like a jacket that you put on. Like, oh, I'm a worshiper of Akatosh because I'm wearing the Akatosh jacket, so I get all the Akatosh powers. I feel like religion is a bit more core to religious people than that. Hey, what's up, Sacrilegious? Oh man, well, I'm gonna be signing off right now. But it's nice to see you. How you doing? But yeah, so I like the concept, alternatively, of religion as this like progression system unto itself. The idea of, you know, tiered bonuses or doing specific things in order to demonstrate your piety. I can't remember the word for that. I guess that applies. But yeah, so there's a lot kind of going on in my head, and I'm just going to have to sit down and design it and see what makes the most sense. But I'll let you guys know as I do. And yo, thank you for the sub, Alan. For 19 months. I'm actually just signing up right now. I feel like piety applies. There's another word that I'm thinking of that is like synonymous with like religious adherence, but whatever. I can't remember it. What are you gonna do? I actually saw that, Sacrilegious. That is cool. Yeah, devotion. That was the word that I was looking for. Who remembers piety before devotion? Maybe just because I've played Path of Exile. That must be why. That is wild, Sakura. It's certainly, I mean, before you say anything, let me wager a guess that your reasoning, if I know how you think, and I feel like I do, because I feel like it's this, we think the same, is that it's kind of hella immersion breaking, that there's just randomly this perfectly convenient means back to the front of every single dungeon. Maybe that's one of the reasons, anyway. For those of you who don't know, Sakura is also a mod author and has like there's about a bajillion, I would say probably like, well actually I don't know, you have so many mods now. I would say a very large percentage of Sakura's mods are slotted for inclusion. Yep, see? I knew it, Sakura, because it doesn't make sense, and it's just I you know, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but for the rest of you, I would say that Sacrilegious and I have always kind of agreed on the world building and contiguity and logicality of the world being like one of the most important facets of immersion, and that certainly would not fit for me. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that Kilted Frog. I'm gonna figure it out. Just because I'm curious more than anything. I mean, you could permanently mod the... so, for that, Kilted Frog messaged me the other day saying that they noticed that there's like 12 points of carry weight being added to the player on... well, on game start, and also every time you start the game in general, not just when you make your character, which I need to look into it. I don't know if it's like by design for like one of the mods, or if it's like erroneous. But we'll figure it out. But anyway, y'all, I gotta go ahead and hop to it. Lots of work to be done, as you can see. Oh, cool. Well, see, I love that solution too, because then it's like, you know, in some cases it makes sense that someone would create a easy escape or back exit, right? Because they need it themselves. But every single random dungeon just having like this, like a lot of like the caves where it's supposed to be this like natural formation, right? Where it's like, ooh, look, it's just, I mean, I guess someone could have like carved it out or something, but certainly it starts to strain credulity when it's every single dungeon. Yo, you're very welcome, Easy Free. Alright, well, y'all, with that, let's go ahead and see who is, where's my mouse? There it is. Streaming, who we can raid. We got, oh, I can't see. Oh, okay, well, it's gotta be Charmed Barian. That's part of the Skyrim family. Charmed Barian is a wizard developer, one of the real wizards, working on so much crazy stuff. So let me go ahead and get that raid set up. Alright, y'all, well, thank you very much. Thank you also for bearing with me with some of the, you know, technical changes with this new setup. Also, you can see that my mic is like above me now, because I've been doing, one of the things I'm trying to do for freelance is like audiobook stuff, and I've been watching a lot of videos and trying to, you know, wet my teeth on getting into like amateur beginner audiobook stuff. And there's, you know, hopefully it goes well. I did one already, but I also think that the person who hired me to do it was like, it was their first audiobook. So, you know, if there's better people out there, they might not have known. But, you know, I don't mean to, a W's a W, and I'll take it. But I'm trying to improve my crafts. That's what I'm going to be doing the rest of today. In any case, thank you all so much for hanging out. Hopefully I answered all your questions. If, you know, there's, if you have any other questions for me, you know where to find me. And stick around for Charmed Barian if you're still in like a Skyrim modding mood. Thank you, Thalian. Alright, y'all. I will see you next week. Thank you again for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And stay safe out there, alright? Alright, goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye, VOD watchers. Bye-bye.